Welcome to Scarves and Spikes.
Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Scarves and Spikes. Thank you, Jurgen Damm. We are here. How's it going, guys?
Well, now that we're finally live, it's going freaking great.
First time, man.
Dude, it's one of those days, man. I looked on Twitter and it's like, oh, Scarves and Spikes is live, and then it just said this broadcast is not viewable 3 times before we finally went live. So we're here though, and we're live. I think. Hopefully, y'all can see us.
Yeah, and this is the first time we are verified. So if you're on Twitter, which is so annoying, damn you, Elon. But we found out on Saturday when we were doing the pre-show that due to Twitter, X, and Elon, you cannot stream to Twitter and the Twitter Spaces. And we know a lot of people are listening via Twitter, so we threw in the cash and verified ourselves, and now we can send tweets that have 764 characters. I don't know if that's actually the amount there, but yeah.
We'll have full articles on Twitter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elon.
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was Sydney for a minute. Yeah, we have double H here.
What's up,
Double H?
It's all good. Good to see you guys back from, watching Colombia do things in the Copa America and then completely fumble the final, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Atlanta United and the fun soccer that Atlanta United's playing, right? Right? Yeah.
Were you one of the people in the vents?
That's a
Metal Gear Solid climbing through.
I can't believe I couldn't believe seeing that. Just like, what do you mean people are climbing into the vents? And like, did you see the picture of like the escalator just like torn apart and stuff? That's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a shame that happened, but I think if I share my opinion on that, it'll be a long rant that we should talk about other things. Like Tyler, you have a really cool hat on, that hat.
Practicing.
Like this hat.
I know, right? Like we're twinsies, except I've got more facial hair than you. But that's okay.
You're right, but hey, you know what? That hat you can get at our shop, right? Tyler, tell him how to get that hat.
Look at you coming in doing the job.
This is the most uncomfortable infomercial I've ever listened to.
No, scarvesandspikes.com. You'll go to the website. Obviously, we have tons of articles going up there. Henry got a great one out today about Alexei Miranchuk, or however you pronounce his last name. I don't know yet. Possibly going to be a new DP for Atlanta United, but also at the top of the page, when you go to scarvesandspikes.com, is a nice little shop link, and you can go get you a hat, go get you a hoodie. Not right now because it's July and it's Satan's rear end outside, so maybe put that off. But we will have.
Are we allowed to say butthole on YouTube?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think I wasn't trying to go in depth and give like
censored
imagery. But you know what you could do to keep yourself cool? Get you a beer glass.
Oh,
and also a coffee mug for the morning when you have to wake up after watching Atlanta United
and drink whiskey
and put whiskey in your coffee. Yes. So there you go. Go get you something. Go get you some merch.
Yeah. We're gonna, and also join the Patreon. Patreon's a good time. We did a watch along. Oh boy. That segue was as smooth as our coaching transitions. We'll get to that. And you talked about ranting, Henry. I've got one coming up here because
Oh boy.
the fan base was not happy with what a lot has gone on over the past week. So we'll get to that for sure. But yeah, join the Patreon. We did a watch along. We did some shots during the game, which was more than Atlanta United got on target. Just one shot. So we were outperforming Atlanta United on Saturday. But yeah, we've got extra episodes. We're recording a Patreon episode with someone in Columbus, talk about the game, and then we're gonna get in here. We're gonna do a year-by-year analysis of Atlanta United, history of Atlanta United. We're gonna start at the good times, right? Year 0, year 1, and then we'll move on, and then we'll all get really depressed and emo. And as you see, I'll just have my hair grow, and I'll start wearing eyeliner as we get closer to the end. So, with that. Montreal. You're pouring the beer.
Yep. I'm gonna need
I have to ask you both a question.
Oh boy, I'm scared.
And I'm not. And was this Montreal game? We're starting off with all the negatives, so we can move to positives. Was this the worst performance of the season by Atlanta United?
Go ahead, Henry.
I mean, you didn't put a shot on goal. I would say so. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And I mean, it's God. I didn't watch it live because I was watching the third place Copa America game, and thank God I did that instead of Atlanta United. Felt like my time was better used there, but just going back and seeing things, it's inexcusable, right? I know you're missing Thiago Almada, who you rely on a lot for creativity, or you did in the past before he went off to Botafogo. But I've said it before, you can't just rely on one player to create your scoring chances. And when you get those chances, you got to take them. And yesterday I was at Atlanta United's training session, spoke to Rob Valentino, spoke to Brooks Lennon. And one of the things that Brooks said about, that game was that there were some scenarios where, you had the ball, you were attacking in a 3v3, 3v2 situation. And ultimately, those are scenarios that they go over in training, and then to kind of, mess it up, to just like not execute what you practice. It's disappointing, right? Because that's what you work on during the week, and having that, not being able to translate that to a game and it costing you, that sucks. And he said it, we have to be a bit more aggressive with our decision making. We have to, be more attacking minded, and not be afraid to take risks, because I feel like, that contributes in some way. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I don't know. What do you think, Tyler?
I mean, yeah. Dylan saying so bad that we couldn't even let Joseph score. It is just a really rough time for Atlanta, and you're kind of stuck in that purgatory. Is what I described it as, I think, last week, like where everywhere else has opened up, right? Like the windows are open. Other European teams, everyone's making moves. So they come and get your players. This is what Carlos Bocanegra kind of alluded to before the Open Cup match the other day. And you just can't fix it until July 18th. And then July 18th happens, right? But that doesn't mean your player is available. Like, we'll have Pedro Amador, who probably will be more or less available the day the window opens. But just because the window opens doesn't mean that your players that you sign, it's not FIFA, it's not Football Manager, they're not available right then and there. You have to wait until visa's clear, everything else clears, all the whole 9 yards. So yeah, you're in the purgatory where it's like, you're probably going to get better. Now, are you going to be good enough to make the playoffs? I don't know, but you're probably going to get better here in a couple of weeks. But you might have blown the season by that point. You're very, very close. Like, you're cutting it very close. And so, yeah, I mean, this last match was awful. Like, it was awful to watch. It was boring, first of all. And I know, look, Frank de Boer, God bless the man. Like, we called him boring at the time, but at least at the time, Atlanta was winning at winning trophies. This was boring and like it just seemed ineffective. It was ineffective. They didn't have any shots on goal. Like it was just miserable to watch, right? And so I think it continues to take the wind out of your sails as a player and as a fan. Like fans are so apathetic at this point. We did Spaces after, and it was like everybody's just like, man, I'm just kind of like numb at this point. And that's kind of how it feels in general, like with the whole team. They just feel like they need something to hold on to and to latch on to. And right now there isn't anything. And unfortunately, there isn't a player that's stepping up and saying, I'm going to be the guy. You know, maybe they're trying, but nobody has done it yet. Nobody stepped up and said, I'm the guy that's going to help lead this team to at least get some results so that when we do get reinforcements in a couple of weeks, we have a chance in the second half or second, third, the final third of the season. It's just, it's rough. Don't at me with the math. Okay. My math was terrible. I'm going to have a drink. Go ahead, Tommy.
Ironically, the final third is where the problems are, Tyler.
Right? See, it was all planned. Go ahead.
I don't know. It's. I feel like we're at this point where you just expect the team to lose, no matter kind of who the opponent is, and it just feels bad going into a game week. Just saying
a double game week,
exactly, and just thinking like, you know, what could you realistically hope for this team to do? Like, when does the skid kind of stop, you know?
Yeah, and we felt this way last year, you know, and going into Leagues Cup, you know, things were just okay. Everything was kind of taking a downhill trend. Then you get into Leagues Cup, and then that was an embarrassment. You know, you immediately play Miami, and then it's like, oh man, this is bad, right? And you're hoping that it's going to get better, and then it did. You know, after that, after Leagues Cup, you had some time to rest your guys. You brought new players in. Things worked out. Can this happen again? It depends on how quick things are happening. I mean, you're talking about getting a new midfielder who will be a DP player. I don't know if there's, you know, I've seen a lot of people talk about, you know, what he puts out there, like looking at the highlights, and like it looks good. He hasn't really been a starter. He's been more of a bench guy. Can he take on the role of being a starter here? Can this team afford to hope that, you know, this player that you're buying as a DP turn into a regular starter in MLS and consistently play? I guess we'll find out here. But before we get to that, I mean, real quick, I mean, we got to give shout out to Brad Guzan. This game would have been a lot worse without him, right? I mean, Joseph Martinez had an opportunity there. And there were a couple more great saves that he made. And I don't know if anyone noticed, there was right at the end of the broadcast, Joseph and Brad had like a meetup in the middle of the field, and it didn't look like it was a very friendly talk. I don't know if you saw it.
That on Spaces. I didn't see it, but they kind of implied that it was like they kind of lip read a little bit, and you could see Joseph saying like F you, but then they were like, it seemed almost like it was kind of like poking at each other, which I don't know. I mean, I do know for a fact, and Henry, I know you've seen it too, like Joseph Martinez and Brad Guzan, their personalities would absolutely lend credence to both of them going to each other and poking at each other and saying F you in a joking manner, like just having fun with each other. But then at the same time, like you're the second person that I've heard this from, that they kind of didn't look super friendly either. And I don't know. He
walked away upset. He looked like he was upset walking away.
Who, Brad?
No, Joseph.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you know how that whole situation ended. It was obviously a locker room torn apart there. I don't know if torn apart's the word, but obviously there was.
I mean, it was
fractured. It was fractured.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, now they're on opposite sides of the pitch, you know, and in a game, emotions can run really high. I mean, so I get that things can happen, things can get heated, but I don't think that there's any bad blood between the two necessarily. I don't know. I feel like that was just if anything, it was just a kind of, you know, in the moment sort of emotions over a game. Brad denying Joseph, I don't know maybe that was something there. But
Yeah.
I don't think there's bad blood.
Yeah, it seemed odd, but I just figured I'd mention it.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was just going to bring up is just the Gregerson yellows. Like both of them just didn't seem like, nah. Especially the first one.
The first one, I would argue the first one wasn't even a foul, much less a yellow. The second one, I can get it being a foul, but not a yellow. The only thing that to me that makes the second one a yellow, arguably, I'm playing devil's advocate, is he's stopping kind of a counterattack. And so by default, you kind of have to give a yellow in that sense, but like that's putting it nicely. I just don't feel like it was to that degree of a counterattack that like it needed a yellow, because I also know Stian Gregerson wouldn't go and do that kind of challenge if he knew that he was stopping a counterattack, which would inevitably lead to a yellow. Yes, Matt saying Gregerson got Ted Uncled. Absolutely. That's what it felt like.
Gregerson out because of ankle injury.
No, I don't think he deserved to get a red. I'm okay if he got a yellow, but I think he only deserved one yellow at the most. To get sent off in that game seemed extremely harsh. And now you're without him again. Like he just got back from being suspended for yellow card accumulation, and now he's out for New York. And it sucks. It sucks. But yeah, Matt saying it was shoulder to shoulder. It could have gone either way. Henry, what'd you say? Did you see those challenges?
I saw the second one, and I thought it was shoulder to shoulder, just like regular game contact. I didn't really see anything that would warrant a foul, much less. I mean, maybe you can make an argument. It'd be a soft foul either way, and I definitely didn't see a yellow card there. And I don't think most referees would give a second yellow for that, because it's not like a malicious tackle. It's not like you're not denying a goal scoring opportunity, really, because it's in like the middle of the field. There's not really much going on there. So for me, I don't think it was really a second yellow. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a referee, so who knows? I mean, what went into that decision ultimately? But it definitely did impact the game, I think. And Brooks talked about this yesterday. When you're down a man, the dynamic of the game just changes completely, right? You got to kind of defend a little bit. They put you under pressure, and that's certainly what Montreal did. And I mean, if Atlanta wasn't getting shots on goal with 11, they're not going to get many with 10. So yeah, that's also a contributing factor. And Gregerson's going to be missed because he's been phenomenal this season, really. Definitely Atlanta United's best defender thus far. So it just sucks that he's going to miss more time.
Yeah, it's rough, because people have been criticizing Gregerson a lot lately, just because he hasn't been able to be in the lineup. Like, he looked good to start the year, right? Like, I feel like he's a good player, but when the team's just bad, it's hard to find anything good on this team, except maybe Brad. Like, that was it. Like, and I was like thinking about the other day. I was like, man, I wish I said this last week with McCarty, was like, if this was any other sport, like the NFL, NHL, like you take McCarty and you take Brad Guzan and say, do you want to go be a contender somewhere? Like, your career's close to being over. Do you want to go move somewhere? Do you want to possibly go win an MLS Cup? And like, I feel like teams potentially contending would say, yeah, I would take a Brad Guzan in a moment to have him on there. But it's just weird. It's like, soccer just isn't that way. I wish it was a little bit to go give these guys. I know Sydney is always saying, no, there's no way Dax leaves. But like, I think it would just be like, if he wanted to go win an MLS Cup somewhere, like I would send him anywhere in a minute. Hey, you want to go to Miami for a little bit of a GAM or something? Sure. Go get them some leadership there. Like, I wish that would be something that would be able to happen there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I don't think anybody, though, going into this season thought that it would be this bad at this point. And I mean, Dax has even said it. He came here because he believed in what Atlanta had. He's said that to us multiple times at the training ground. The team is in shambles right now. Like I said, they're in purgatory. They're in a rough situation, and you really just have to keep your head above water, above the very low playoff line until you get your reinforcements in. And then you just have to hope that the reinforcements that you bring in have the same effect that the ones last summer did. Because if not, it's going to be a long, long rest of the season. Like, it's going to be really frustrating. I'll say this really quick. Stian Gregerson, I mean, you can't fault him for the injury, either one. I mean, the knee injury that happens, the hamstring thing, he got absolutely clobbered. Like he's been through it. He's a very physical player, which is great. Like him and Derek Williams, I think, make a great pairing in MLS. The downside is you never know what teams or what referees are going to call. So, but I think my one frustration from this match was this man made like an 80-yard run with the ball solo, center back, like playing FIFA on like amateur, and just took the entire pitch, made it into the box, and not like the top of the box, made it into the box and said, I'm going to lay it off to, I think, Brooks or somebody, and like just completely missed the laying off. And I'm like, dude, you did all that. Take the shot. Just take the shot. Like what the morale of the team would be if the center back did all that, took a shot and scored a goal. Like, just do it, man. Like, just take the shot, buddy. You did all that hard work. Be selfish. That's my only thing about Stian in that match.
Yeah, it was like he's at the 50, he's at the 40,
Yeah,
the 30,
you're
the
running
20, the 10.
He broke loose.
And then he dropped it.
Yeah. Fumble.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to really talk about this game too much more because the combination of Tuesday and Saturday was just 180 minutes that was just depressing. Just really depressing overall. And this week, I think it was on Sunday, I put a tweet out, and I didn't think it was going to get much traction there, but I came back after Pokemon Going all day. Yeah, because I'm a nerd. And I saw a lot of people agreed with me that you gave up the Open Cup. Now, people were like, what do you mean by that? You rested some guys to obviously be ready for Montreal, and those specific two players were Silva and Brooks Lennon. You were relying on youth to get you through it. Obviously, that didn't end up happening. You lose that game, and then you just pull this terrible game off on Saturday. And I think, like, thinking of how, I thought, and I said this last week, and I'll just be real quick with it. Like, if you could have got to a semifinal of the Open Cup, the fans would have had something to talk about for the next month. Like, at least we have this. At least we have something to look forward to in 30 or 40 days or whatever the next game is. That ended up not happening. And then you just go and you have this terrible game. And you just look at everything adding up. And, this week, unfortunately, it all came out that, there was a increase in season tickets. And it wasn't huge. But for some, I'll take that back. For a couple sections, they definitely were. Man, the on-field seats, holy crap. That was a huge increase.
Yeah.
Now, season increases are a normal thing. Absolutely normal. Like, I get that. Like, that it's going to happen. I was a minor league season ticket holder for a long time, and they didn't do anything. And every year they would increase. We'll get to the gold record here. The video was leaked yesterday, and someone turned it into like a propaganda video, like talking about everything that Atlanta United's doing. Talking about how it hasn't been great, how they're going to be getting better. I think the buyback program is pretty cool. I think that's something. The hockey team that I had, they had something like that too, or that you can move them to other games if you could make it. So like that's cool. They obviously talked about they were the first team to allow away matches for free. Cool. But man, it's been 4 years. It's been 4 years of crap. And it almost feels like the end of the road just isn't coming. And I think it will. And I get that. But also, I'm here in Ohio and I am not paying for season tickets, right? I'm not. I pay for MLS package. I spend my time, doing this every week watching the games. So that's valuable as well. But there's a lot of people that spend money, which is a real thing, right? Real money on the tickets, the parking, the drinking, the most important part, having fun with your friends and everything. Friendship's free, everyone. Friendship's free. But you get to a point where it just feels like you just keep getting crapped on. And I get what Garth Lagerwey walked into, and I've already seen people calling for his head, and I think that's overboard here. But the more I think about this, it's like I don't want to make the Tommy guarantee, because I saw someone made a guarantee the other day. I think I posted in our Discord. Someone like guaranteed England was going to win, and they shaved their eyebrows, their beard, and their head.
All
I will
facial
never
hair.
do that. I will never do that. I will never do that. My wife will never sleep with me ever again because she'll have that image burned into her head. So I will never do that. But with that said, no matter how maybe things have gotten better in that office, I feel like there's a lot tied to Garth Lagerwey. Now, Gonzalo Pineda was one. He's gone, right? And I kept saying there was no way that next season he was going to be that guy. He's out. But I look at this and I look at how this team has been run, and it's not about this window. It's not about the last window. The reason why we are where we are today is because of bad contracts given over the past 4 years. And you were unable to get out of these terrible contracts. It's not just the Jurgen Damm thing. It's not just all the backup strikers that you tried to bring in to replace Joseph or to, give him a break with it. It's not just the U22 situation where you had 4 of them, right? It's not just what other crazy things have happened on this team here.
I mean, you have the terrible midfield, which, and that's a lot of
Josetu, the Josetu extension.
Heinze not staying, and then you're stuck with players that kind of he brought in, like, which I think is why people get so freaked out now about the whole chicken and egg scenario of you have a manager vacancy, you got 2 DP spots. What do you fill first? Are you going to bring in the DPs and then try to figure out a manager and hope that they work? Do you bring in the manager and let them kind of at least have a little bit of a say in the type of DPs that they want? That's where you're at, and I think that's because people have PTSD about it. They really do. And I don't know that like Garth is understanding of like how bad the fan base looks at the past 4 years in terms of like, you got the manager, cool. Then you have a bunch of players that don't fit the manager's system, and then you bring in a different manager, and then you have it's just a revolving door, and it never meets in the middle, and you never get that equilibrium of like players that match the manager, a manager that matches the players. And we're in that same situation again. And that's why I say people need something to hold on to, because it doesn't feel like you are in a position where you have any room for failure, because you don't. Like, you can ruin the rest of the season potentially, fine, whatever. A lot of people are calling for that anyway. But if you don't get the manager hire right, then next season and potentially even longer than that's out of the question as well.
And that's the thing too, right? Like the manager search, like given what Garth has said, it isn't really going as quickly as some people might have hoped for it to go. Right? Like he said, you still got to find a search firm. And so obviously if you haven't found the search firm, then the search hasn't really truly begun. So people are questioning that. Now going back to kind of the Heinze kind of chicken egg scenario thing, to be fair, Heinze didn't really come into this club with a hugely successful track record. It was more of just kind of a name from, just an Argentine playing legend, but he wasn't necessarily.
He was a Bielsa protege as well, so he had that going for him.
Yeah, but he didn't have a truly proven coaching record.
Yeah.
So that's that thing. And then Gonzalo Pineda was literally just starting his head coaching career. He had zero hand in transfers basically, because anytime we would ask him, he'd be like, no, that's a Carlos question. Or like, I don't really, deal with that was usually his answer. Now, I don't know if he really ever had a hand in that, if he ever, talked with Bocanegra about that. It didn't really seem like it.
That one summer transfer window when they have a ton of money, though. I mean, there were a lot of players in there that I think people were kind of linked to Pineda.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you bring a coach who has a really proven track record and who knows, they know what they're doing, you can bring in, and they know who they want to bring in, like Tata. Tata knew the players he wanted to bring in, and that's how he built his team. It was kind of cooperating with, the front office and saying, hey, this is how I want to play. These are the players I need to make that happen.
Like, he's doing the same thing in Miami.
He's doing the same thing in Miami. So if you get a coach that knows how to build a team and you give him the tools with which to build the team, which Arthur Blank has plenty of tools, I can tell you that. See what I did there? So yeah, I mean, bring in someone who can bring in an architect, because this team has the resources for that. And then if you bring in if you have the plan and then you bring the players, you're cooking. So that's why I'm in the kind of in the train of bring the coach first, get your plan straight, and then bring in your players, especially your DPs who you want to be your foundation.
Yeah, for sure. And, but again, with Garth, he loves this window, right? And he likes trying to find players in this window. So I understand that. Potentially, if Garth is really a summer transfer person, then you could potentially be bringing in a coach and waiting to bring in DPs until next summer, which is also more of a delayed response to possibly winning, right? Like, it's going to take a little bit longer then to build your team. And it's been 4 years of this. And that's why I just keep saying to myself, like, I don't really know how great, Carlos Bocanegra has evolved now with getting, obviously better scouting and all of that. But I just feel like eventually Garth Walgaway has to separate himself from Carlos Bocanegra, because the vibes right now are that this team has been screwed up for a long time. And if you follow the MLS rule book here of the salary and roster rules, first off, I'm sorry that you're doing that. Please go out and get some sun. Like, it's the worst thing to
Get
try to
out
understand.
from under the rock.
Yeah, stop reading the handbook. It's changing potentially here in 3 days.
Active document.
Well, right, and Apple or MLS right now, the window's opening in a couple of days, and we haven't figured out if the rules are changing or not. Stupid. Anyways, so it's been so many windows and so many mistakes. Like, I feel like you have to separate yourself from that. Like, right, and I feel like he's going to be gone here at the end of the year. And, I know there were some obviously positive vibes when you got the new coach bump with Rob. But no matter what I think Rob does at this point, you're already out of Open Cup. You're potentially could be, by the end of this week, at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I don't care what he does for the rest of the year. Next year, if you fail and you start off slow, and you're getting, you start off 1-3, the crowd's gonna riot, right? Like, they're gonna say, why did you trust this guy who has no head coaching experience? And I could already see, the tweet from Felipe. This big club is got a manager. Decided to keep a manager that has 20 games of experience of being a head coach here. Like, this is one of the biggest clubs here. Obviously, because of what they spend and what they sell for, you need a fresh start. You need a fresh start, and you need different vibes. And Garth is going to have to find the right guys here. He's going to have to find the right technical director, right? And I think he could probably do that. And who knows if he ends up going to steal someone from Seattle at some point? That could always happen. And you're going to go find yourself a new manager here. But you have to get it right. You cannot go another year. The Galaxy went a long time with being trash. A real long time. They had the power, though, of being LA, and you still had a lot of fans coming in, and because it's LA, and then LAFC came in, and they were like, oh man, we really got to get things figured out here. We got someone stealing our market, everything like that. That's not Atlanta. This is the team, right? Unless you want to go root for Miami or Nashville or Charlotte. I mean, this is it, and you've got the tools, you've got the money now, right? I mean, you've always had the money, but now you've got 50 plus million here in the bag. You've got a ton of cap room opening up here at the end of the season. This summer, whatever you do this summer and whatever you do this winter, you better start off next season good. You can't start off slow because you need the momentum of the fans at this point, right? Eventually, the goodwill and the people buying season tickets, like, I think people always said, like, oh, Atlanta United's always going to, have a wait list for this. It's going to start dying here. Eventually, getting into a fifth year of not having any success is bad. And, I don't know. I've been ranting here, but like, going back and forth with people here, like, I thought things were going to be, I think everyone thought things were going to be better this year, right? You were the highest scoring team to finish the season, second highest, whatever, but like the highest during that last part of the season. Your defense was terrible. You went out and you addressed all of that. And then what happened? You thought you were good, and you weren't good. Things just somehow got worse real quick. Part of it was injuries. Part of it was teams got you figured out. You're predictable. And now you're here with no coach, no real manager. You got an interim manager. You have 2 DP spots open. You just lost Caleb Wiley. You just sold him off. The team's bare at this point, and now you're going into these 2 games and Leagues Cup, and you're likely gonna get 0 points out of this homestand. And the fans are pissed, and I don't blame them. They gotta get this right. And I see Matty saying, I'd rather build a long-term solution, but I wonder if a big name signing for a year or two would revamp this fan base. I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't think you just go for the big names. You go for the right fits here. But you've got the money, and like, I think the worst thing that could possibly happen here, I know that people don't want him, like, obviously find the right guy, but if you just go and you spend $15-20 million on these 2 players, and there's $30 million just left on the table, fans are going to be upset. Hey, can we throw you an extra couple million so it makes it look like we got the biggest guy out there? We'll pay you an extra couple. Like, they've got to go big on something here and get someone. And like, Almada was a big player. Like, from there, obviously, the situation was weird about it, but like, he had a lot of high ambitions, and his future was bright. And he eventually got to that point. But you got to do something here. You have to. I'll shut up now.
I mean,
I don't know really where I was going with this.
No, I mean, you're on one. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I feel like they are going to spend quite a bit of that money in this window. I mean, look at the Moranchuk rumors, the reports kind of at this point, because even Fabrizio Romano is reporting on them. The original offer was for like, I think 11 or 10 million. And Atalanta want 15 million or 60 million or something like that. So they're probably going to try to find a way to bridge that gap. It'll probably be somewhere in the 13 million to 14 million range at the end. If it gets done, I would expect it to be kind of in that range. So you're already spending quite a bit, much more than most MLS clubs would spend. That's going to be a record that would be a record for most MLS clubs. And you're spending that on your 10. You still have the DP9 to figure out, which we haven't had rumors for that, but I would expect that they're looking to fill that position in this window. I think I saw it somewhere that they are looking in top 5 European leagues for the next 2 DPs, which would be the 10 if that's Moranchuk, and then the 9. So obviously, I think they want. I don't think the goal is necessarily find a big name. I think the goal is find a player that the fans can rally around, that they'll be excited to watch play, and that will make this team truly better and truly competitive. Find the foundations for what will be this club's long-term success, if that makes any sense. Because you haven't really had a plan for the past few seasons. But hey, I mean, put something together. I'm reading Bruno's comment. 14 million for a European backup. To be fair, I mean, Atlanta United's last signing from Italy went pretty well. A guy named Joseph Martinez. So, hey, you don't know until he comes here and does whatever he does. And I mean, if he doesn't work out, then he doesn't work out. But there's always a chance. And I think, given the analytics that this club is putting towards all of these, scouting and all of these player acquisitions, you have to think that, they've decided if they've honed it on this guy, it's for a reason. So I trust him on this. I don't think Garth would be willing to spend 14, 13, whatever $million on someone that isn't going to make a big impact on this team. And same goes for whoever they bring in to be the striker.
That's fair. And I kind of feel that way too. But I don't think that they can just go 14 million here. Then I think they got to go big money with the striker. And then there's a lot of talk here, and I went back and forth here, and I try to get Doug involved in it. Like, what is going to be next year of that third DP, right? Because like we're playing switch around here on who's the DP, right? Saba last year, then we moved Gregerson in, and then there was I think Garth made a comment from there. I was in Atlanta United out. Someone sent me a link, and I apologize if you're listening. I should have gone back and listened to it. But I'm pretty sure they made a comment that like Sleesh could be the DP right here. Like, I hope that's not the case. I hope that they could find a way here. And again, the rules are changing. We don't know if the rules are going to be what they are in a couple days when this window opens, and we don't know what it evolves in from summer to winter. But if you could, they're all DP lights, which is, I know I keep saying that, but that's what Garth calls them. Like, if you can get them all down and get them in TAM range, then go bring on a third player, a third impact, I say high dollar, but it really high skilled comes with high dollars, and build this the way that you need to. And if there's a guy that I trust to figure out the MLS salary cap and be able to fit in everybody in as much as you can, it's Garth Lagerwey. I absolutely believe that he's there, and Atlanta United needs the boost from league boost for league changes. I'll argue that the league needs Atlanta United to be good again. They do. Like when teams struggle in other leagues, when the Yankees suck, that's not good for MLB, right? The New England Patriots started sucking because Tom Brady left. That wasn't good for the league. Okay? And these are the biggest teams for a long time in different sports. So when Atlanta United, the super team that Dumbface called him a long time ago, he so sick of that guy. I'm so glad all these tournaments are over that I don't got to see him for a while. I'm not even saying his name. It's bad for the league when Atlanta United is not good. So the league needs us to be good too. So we've got to get this figured out, right? We're ratings boosters. We were on Fox how many times during those the days after the World Cup? Who did they put on there? Atlanta and Seattle, right? And then there was like another. I think it was the Women's World Cup. There was the other one. It was Atlanta Red Bulls, right? Yep. After these huge tournaments, you pick Atlanta to be on immediately after. The league needs Atlanta United to be good again, and I'm sticking with that.
And I don't think it's just the DP slots either. I think you gotta figure out your U22s. If they get uncoupled and you have 3, right? Get yourself 3 that, first of all, are not going to spend the majority of their time at other clubs because you're loaning them out because they're not working. And second, that they'll be serviceable. That's where, if you want your DPs to be prime age players, and this is your chance to get young players that can develop potentially, maybe you sell them on for a bit more cash. Maybe they become foundational parts of the team, right? At the very least, they should be quality depth, right? That push you a little bit above some of the other teams in terms of having a more well-rounded squad. So I sure hope that, when some of these contracts finish running out and when you can finish cleaning out some of, the stuff that's happened over the past 4 years, hopefully, right, you'll see the squad just have more quality, frankly, because that's the idea, and that's what I believe Garth Lagerwey is trying to do.
Yeah, Bruno, I see. We are the Yankees of MLS. You're a big name. You're a big team. Whatever it is, the Detroit Red Wings. Fine, you want to say hockey there? Like, they were one of the best teams for decades, and then they went to crap, and the league's ratings hit it. Chicago Blackhawks. Like, I could just keep going on with that. It hurts when your big teams aren't doing well, and we are a big team. I don't care what you like where we are in for 4 years. We are a ratings boost there. You've got to get that figured out here sooner than later. And the money will come. Your fans will come back. Your fans will be great. And I'm sure at the season opener next year, no matter what happens to the end of the season, the Benz is going to be packed and the fans are going to be excited. But it's your responsibility at that time to give this team a winning product. I don't know.
I mean, y'all are on fire. Like, I think you're absolutely right. Like, this team, even to this day, every MLS Apple TV announcer that we talk to, every casual fan that we talk to, every, individual that has nothing to do with soccer that we might talk to, they know Atlanta United because of 2017, 2018, and to a degree, 2019. They, even if they weren't involved, which obviously the announcers are, but even if like you're a casual fan or whatever, you just got into it lately, you've heard of those early years. And some people might say like, oh, y'all are just trying to bring back the golden years. Well, we're not even a decade in, really. And yeah, absolutely. I know Garth Lagerwey and Carlos Bocanegra would absolutely love to bring back 2018. What team wouldn't? What team would not want to do what 2018 Atlanta United did? That is like literally a historical moment in not just soccer, but professional sports in this country. Like, they went and did something that was almost unheard of. So yeah, like, go and make the big moves, make the big name moves, make the big money moves if that's what you got to do. But yeah, Matt saying crazy thinking back to the home opener this year and how much excitement there was, and then crying.
A hat trick. He scored a hat trick.
He did.
I threw up in my hotel room. That's how great that night was.
Was it great though? Like, is that what you want to call great? That was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a good game. It was fun to watch. We just didn't know what was going to come after that.
It was like Star Wars, right before Palpatine destroys the Republic and then the Empire takes over. It's like, oh, everything's going great, and then all of a sudden, no, it's not anymore.
Spoilers.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize,
man,
a 2-decade-old series would come back to bite us. Oh, it's longer than 2 decades. Oh,
thanks, friend.
Old. I'm sorry.
Are y'all feeling old?
We have an interview,
Shut
right?
up. You don't get to talk in this conversation. Carry on.
Henry, is that a Jar Jar Binks stuffed animal on your bed there? Henry, I wanted to make a joke so bad because I saw your bed in the background. I was like, man, I wish Henry had a car bed. You probably don't get that joke. I don't know if you get that joke, Grandma's Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do or not. I don't know if I believe it.
I mean, I got it. Anyway, where were we going with this? Why'd we start talking about?
Because like it's just they gotta get shit figured out. That they have to, right? Like this is everybody is sick of it, and then you get the price increase, and you get this, and you just feel like you just keep getting crapped on. But you get the gold album. And I would love a gold album. So Garth, if you're listening, I've been talking you up all season. So I will take a gold album. I don't have a record player, but I would take a gold album for the background. But there's a point here where you've gotta eventually do something here. With that said,
This is where
we
you
have an
sign
interview that we need to get to. We can't be going up until 9:00. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna play this interview that Tyler did with Tony, right? Tony
Husband. Tony Husband, Apple
Uh,
TV MLS announcer. He was the one that was on literally right before the Euros in Copa America, and we had a great conversation with him. But a lot has changed in Atlanta United world and soccer world in the month and a half since he was on. So good stuff. But yeah. What's up?
I just see Bruno. I asked my coworkers about Gladiator, and they said they never watch him. I've never seen Gladiator.
What? No,
I've never. I just don't care. I just don't care. I just don't care.
No.
I don't care.
You don't understand. My family hits on me so much. Like they dog me because I don't watch movies. All right. I grew up playing video games. That's what I did. I didn't watch movies. So everybody's like, oh, you haven't seen Princess Bride? No. You haven't seen, this movie, whatever.
Did you see Gremlins?
When I was like a little kid, yeah.
Did you
like
see Ghostbusters?
But not the whole way through. I did see Ghostbusters, yeah.
Okay, then you're fine.
Okay, but I mean, I'm glad you feel that way because by I think normal social norms, like I would not be considered to be cultured in the movie world. I play video games. Ask me a video game question, I'll answer it in a heartbeat. No. Gladiator, you need to go watch that movie tonight. That movie is phenomenal. It is a classic, like 100% a classic.
All right.
Bruno. Patreon Gladiator watch along. Let's go. Give me an excuse to watch Gladiator. That is a freaking epic movie.
All right. Let's get to Tony. We'll come back. We'll preview New York. I'm gonna go find some drink. I'm gonna go find a drink while this plays, and then we'll preview New York, and then we'll get out of here.
We'll dive into it. All right, here's Tony Husband. Me and him talked a couple hours ago. Good interview. Y'all check it out. Hey everybody, here with Tony Husband, MLS Apple TV announcer, and literally it's so crazy to me because we had this same kind of interview just before the Euros, just before Copa America, and here we are kind of at the end of it. But before we dive into any of that, Tony, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, Tyler. I'm worried. Did I say anything that was correct at all then on that last appearance? Having just enjoyed Copa and the Euros?
Yeah, the entertainment value at least was second to none for sure. I asked you before. I asked you the question, is it coming home?
I remember. I think I said no. I think I said no.
You did say no. You did say no. But was it closer than you thought?
Yes, in a sense it was, in as far as we got to the final. But it's a really interesting few weeks it's been for fans of the England soccer team, because this was a tournament of great moments but not great games. I think we played one good half of football, full good half of football in the whole tournament. We seemed like we were in a straitjacket. We played some frankly clueless football at times. But somehow, as the tournament went on, we found a way to get through games, and we have some great players at the moment. We are blessed with a really, really good generation of players, and they are capable of great things. And those individual moments got us to a point where we got to the final. And I must admit, there was just that little sneaky feeling inside me thinking, well, do you know what? After all these years of pain and hurt that the English soccer fan has had to put up with, or, the narrative is that we've had to put up with, the truth being we've never had a team good enough really to deserve to lift a trophy, even though we've come close. But the fundamental fact was that you just wonder whether we might get through and we would actually win a tournament, ironically, with maybe a team that was a bit workmanlike and kind of came through and snuck an odd goal here and won the game. So, and when we equalised at 1-1 on Sunday, I was talking to Nick Cushing, the New York City manager, obviously fellow Englishman, and he said, I thought we might actually just nick it at that point. But we actually reverted to type, and every kind of problem that we'd had during the tournament, which was we looked very, very defensive, very cautious, and Spain rightfully won it. They're by far on paper, particularly when you look at Spain's results, far and away the best team in the tournament. I don't think that they're up there with the vintage of a decade or so and beyond of Spain, which is what frustrates me slightly as an England fan, because I actually think, we could have beaten this Spain team if we played better and played to some of the potential we have. But they are, they're deserved winners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that stood out to me from an English perspective was, I agree with you. And I don't have room to talk because obviously United States here, that's a totally different conversation. But they played some ugly football. However, they figured out a way to get results. And that's sometimes 70% of the battle right there. You can play the ugliest football in the world, but if you're getting the results, that shows that you've got at least something that's worth fighting for.
Yeah, and it's been done before. Greece won the European Championship some 20 odd years ago with an extremely kind of dogged workman-like approach, and they won it. Denmark went to the championships 30 odd years ago, and they shouldn't have even been playing in the tournament, but they ended up being in there, and they won it. And they didn't have probably the best team on paper in the championships, but they found a way to win. With this England group, though, Gareth Southgate's done a tremendous job. He leaves the job now. But I hope Eddie Howe takes the job. The Newcastle United manager is someone I've known for many, many years, since he was a young man, working with him when he was a Bournemouth player. I sat in a commentary booth and done matches with him on radio over in the UK before. He's a great football mind, a great patriotic Englishman. I think he's the perfect fit for this group of players and for actually what England need to progress to, which is a slightly more offensive-minded, using our weapons-minded kind of team. But the challenge, of course, is what do you lose at the back end of the field, where I think we were very, very good in the Euros on the whole. But he is the standout candidate for me. The question is, can we convince him to do it? I hope we can, because a lot of people will say, well, it's too early for him, it's too soon for him. But you don't know 10 years' time what kind of English group of players we have. This group is a great group potentially, and there's more coming through. This is a great time to potentially take on the England job.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think like England, with the talent that they have, it is a good mixture, right? You've got the veterans, you've got the guys that have been there a minute, then you have the guys that are coming up. But it's not a particularly young squad in general, but you're kind of in that sweet spot where you have guys that have a handful of major tournaments ahead of them, and then you've got the guys there that can still mentor and teach and do what they have to do. And now it just feels like you do need that final piece, which is, Gareth Southgate, he has his pros and cons, just like every coach. I agree. I think a little too defensive oriented, maybe, in the sense that you're just not taking advantage of your strengths, which is, you've got Jude Bellingham, you've got, guys that can score goals. You've got Harry Kane. Like, as much as people want to talk about him, the guy can score goals.
He can.
And, I think it just maybe wasn't played to those advantages.
Yeah. And the other thing to remember is that this is an England team that went into these Euros not looking great either. And so our worst fears were realised ultimately, even though we made it to the final. We dropped a home result. I think it was against Iceland just before the Euros. So, it didn't look good. And I think when I spoke to you, it was around that kind of time, I think. So, in fact, it was probably after the Iceland game. So there wasn't a great deal of reason for optimism. I actually also think we miss Harry Maguire. As much as he's maligned as a club player, he's one of those guys that when he puts an England shirt on, he's a different player.
Yep.
We maybe missed a bit of leadership and character out there in that sense, albeit the defence wasn't really our issue at this championships. But going forward, we have, Foden, Bellingham, Kane wasn't fit. I'm convinced. I read one of the newspaper writers in the UK saying in the months to come, surely Kane's camp will come out and acknowledge that he was dealing with some kind of injury during this, because he clearly did not look fit during this tournament. I think he's still, if he can get back to fitness, he's still very much an option for us for the World Cup. But the question is, will his body let him get there? But I think we have enough talent, and even some of the guys that didn't make it onto the plane, we've got enough good young players coming through in England for us to be pretty optimistic about the next few tournaments.
So jumping across the pond, and we'll get to Atlanta, New York, and MLS here in a minute. But I figured, what better way? Again, you were here right before. Now we're just ending, so might as well kind of discuss it all. But just overall, like Copa America, what are your thoughts? Not, you don't have to pick a specific team, but just the overall tournament. What's going through your mind?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that's the first thing I would say. I've always enjoyed watching Copa America when I've had the chance over the years, and I'm not a veteran of every tournament because of the time difference. Most of the time I've been in the UK, so it was great to be able to watch the tournament kind of in prime time this time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very disappointed and sorry that the US did not perform. I mean, if ever there's a sliding doors moment in a soccer team's national history, what it could have been without Weah's right hook, in that game against Panama, who knows? Because if ever an incident can change the direction of a tournament for a team, it was that. I don't think the US loses that game without that sending off, and then things certainly could have turned out differently. Now, I'm not saying this was a team that looked set to kind of go deep into the tournament and be contesting for the final on Sunday. I'm not sure they were there, but at the same time, I think that one incident just really changed the course and direction of the tournament, and of course the longer term direction of the US team now, which is going to be a big question. I mean, the Canadians have shown again how with a good core group of players, many of whom come from MLS, that you can progress. Jesse Marsh has had a good first tournament there, and there's reasons for some optimism for them going into World Cup 26. I think there's still plenty of reasons for optimism for the US team, but I do think that we've got to try and get a grasp on this kind of issue of the guys who are playing in Europe and the guys who might be playing in the US. What's the better fit? I mean, I start to swing back to the idea that actually if you're playing regularly 90-minute games and you're a key part of your team in MLS, I wonder whether that's more significant than being a bit part player in Europe. I think too many people are looking at some of these US players and saying, oh, but he plays in Europe. Oh, he plays in Germany. He plays in Holland. And well, yeah, but analyze the minutes, analyze how much they're playing. And with a few exceptions, they're not all playing that much. And you wonder, with a World Cup coming in 2026 here, whether some of them would be better served actually playing in the domestic league here. It would help the league, but it would also potentially help them. There's a few question marks of this US team. Big appointment now for Matt Crocker. I knew him a little when he was at his days in Southampton, when I was based in the city there for the BBC. And, he was at the club when they had the likes of Ronald Koeman, Mauricio Pochettino. I'm sure the likes of Pochettino are in his phone book. Whether any of them would be interested, I don't know. I always personally think it's nice if you can get somebody from your own nation to run your national team. But big moment, upcoming for the US now. And as for the rest of the tournament, obviously it had its issues. Hopefully there will be some lessons learned from some of the scenes we saw in various games in Charlotte and then the final in Miami. But probably the best team won it ultimately, albeit it was quite an emotional night for the likes of Lionel Messi. But I think ultimately Argentina looked best on paper coming into it, and just about by a hair, I think they probably were, although the Colombians are obviously been on a very good run and look a good team as well.
Yeah, I'm a big Pochettino fan, by the way. So I don't know how he would fit. Obviously, it's a big difference when you go from club to country and everything in between. But hey, I'm here for it. But then also, Atlanta United's looking for a manager as well. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, I tell you what. Well, Pochettino would be wonderful for MLS. I think he probably would still want to be in Europe for the next stage of his career. But he is the kind of guy that is infectious, wonderfully warm, charismatic, and his teams play entertaining, good, aggressive football. I remember the first day he arrived in English football. We were called to a press conference at Southampton. We didn't really know too much about him. He'd been at Real Sociedad. But we were told, the new manager is going to arrive and he's going to speak via an interpreter at 2:00 in St. Mary's. So we all go down to the stadium and we're thinking, this doesn't sound like a great move here. We've got a guy who doesn't speak any English coming in. They just got rid of a bit of a club legend in Nigel Adkins, who'd taken Southampton back into the Premier League at that time. But 2 minutes into the press conference with Pochettino, you knew there was an aura about him, something special about him, even though he was speaking through an interpreter at that time. A tremendous guy, an awful lot of time for him. And, I think he's a good hire for whoever takes him next.
Yeah, he's got a great book written by Balaguer, but it's called Brave New World. It's it was during his first years at Tottenham, and just a really, really good read, and it kind of gives you some insight into his relationship with Bielsa growing up, which obviously had a great tournament, had plenty to say about the tournament, but had a great tournament.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think overall it was entertaining for sure. It had its faults, absolutely. But I think it was fun. And it's also, I think it gives the United States going into 2026 an idea of what to do and probably more so what not to do, and getting prepared. But yeah, I mean, fun time. I got to see the Tim Weah thing you're talking about. I was there in person, and me and Jason Longshore, who's Atlanta's radio announcer, we were having the conversation right before that. Matt Turner got absolutely clobbered, right? Gets absolutely destroyed. No United States player kind of came out and went over to, I forget what player it was for Panama, went over and did anything. They just kind of let it go. They kind of rushed the ref, right? But nobody put the player on notice. And you just kind of felt like, all right, well, now you've missed your window of quote unquote retribution. And then what happened, 2 minutes later, Tim Weah comes in with the haymaker. Yeah. And yeah, I think that was the moment that changed the entire tournament for the United States.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I think you're going through, I think you only needed a result that night, didn't you?
Yeah.
I think it was a win, and you're definitely through, I think.
A win was through, and at one point a draw would have been okay, but then the other game didn't really go the way you wanted it to. But yeah, you had to get something.
Yeah, and I think it would have been a win with 11 players on the field. I'm pretty certain of that. So, and I mean, just such a costly moment for everyone concerned. Now, who knows? We might look back on it in 2 years' time and say, you know what? It was a costly moment. The Copa was a bit of a failure, but ultimately maybe we had the right outcome for US soccer, in that a new manager came in and it was the right timing. But you've got to feel for Greg Berhalter, because nobody would be where we are today if that hadn't happened. I'm pretty convinced he would have stayed in the job if the US had reached the knockout stages, provided it wasn't a disaster after that. But it's a moment in time in US soccer, but hopefully maybe in the longer term, as I say, we'll look back on it and say maybe it worked for the right reason, even if it was the wrong thing at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So same building, back to club teams, but Atlanta, New York, getting ready to kick off a little over 24 hours from now. But just, I guess, what are your initial thoughts with everything Atlanta's going through, the way New York has been playing lately? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? And obviously, I look at it from the outside as a journalist, really, and commentator, assessing what's happened, and it must be frustrating for Atlanta fans. There was so much optimism, I think, going into this season, even though I think there was a suspicion that Almada would probably not necessarily see out the season. But key parts have gone. The head coach has gone. It looks like Caleb Wiley is probably going to be gone. But there's a war chest of money, but it's all happening kind of midway through a season that, if we're not careful, this season is running away and going to be gone. I mean, I'm looking at the standings and thinking, 23 points and 24 points in 23 games. So 11 games to go. Playoffs now, with it being top 9 in terms of, 8 and 9 being the wild card game, if you like. Yep. You're probably looking at needing to get up to about 43, or in and around 43 points. So, that's 19 points, 11 games, and on pace at the moment. Do you think Atlanta would get there? I don't know that they would. Now, the caveat when it comes to MLS is that teams can change very quickly. And we saw that with this Atlanta team last year, very busy in the summer transfer market, transformed the season. Suddenly Atlanta's a playoff team by the end of the year and plays in some, pretty decent games against Columbus. Are we going to see that again? Well, Garth Lagerwey has acknowledged there's $50 million in the bank that can be spent. But of course, it's how it's spent and the kind of player he now wants to bring in for Atlanta. I think they're certainly going to aim for the stars. And it's a question of where they come up, because he's admitted the challenge with some of them is to say, you're in your prime, come to MLS. Be fantastic for the league if some of these people, whoever they are, can be convinced to do it. But it probably holds the key to what the rest of the season holds for Atlanta as well. And it's funny, I'm doing a series of games at the moment with teams. So I might bring Atlanta some luck in some ways, because we've done Minnesota on a complete losing trend, and we broke that for them at the weekend in Houston, and they got a point. We've done Toronto, who can't really get out of their struggles, although they finally have now. Nashville have been in a bad place, losing a lot of games. And so now we land us with Atlanta. And again, it's a bit of a losing skid, which we saw one of those games at New England. But it's the same message across a lot of these teams at the moment is kind of, can we hang in there for the window? And of course, the window also provides time for the season to stop for Leagues Cup to come in. So there are several teams now across this league, probably more than several, who are actually looking at the end of August through to the end of October, the end of the regular season, and saying, right, well, that's our season now. That 7, 8, 9 games we have to play after League Cup, that determines our season. That will be our season and our shot. And MLS affords you the opportunity to make the playoffs with any kind of good run like that. So that would be my hope for Atlanta right now.
Yeah, me too. And I hope you are correct that you switched the luck, because like you said, you've got the losing streak, you've got including the Open Cup, which that's one of the hardest pills to swallow, because that was by far the easiest route to a potential final that Atlanta, or any team really that was in it, has. So it's frustrating. I called the summer transfer window in MLS the great equalizer, or the wild card, because you never know. Like it can completely alter a season. We saw it with Atlanta last year. Columbus did it, not to the same degree, because they were already good, but they got rid of arguably their best player, brought in other guys, and still went on and won the tournament. So
what a genius move that looks now. And at the time, did we think it was a great idea for Zellaran to go? But wow, they have just got better. So
100%.
It's a huge moment in the window. I mean, the one thing again is that there is an awful lot of inconsistency around the league this year. There are teams, I look at Charlotte, who've gone up to 6th, who've done it off the back of a very strong defensive-minded kind of approach, very pragmatic. They've got themselves in a bit of a sequence of good results. New York have had a great sequence of results and then stuttered. Orlando a few weeks ago, everyone was starting to say, well, this is nowhere near the Orlando team of last season. Suddenly now they're up in kind of mid-table, up in 7th. Toronto start well, then look like an absolute mess for a while, and then they finally get back to winning ways. I mean, New England's classic case, terrible start, historically bad start, and yet they've pulled themselves back into contention now, and again are not far off being in contention for playoffs. And who would bet that Philly would be bottom of the Eastern Conference at the moment? With their group, albeit they've had a couple of departures, but this is a Philly group that you wouldn't rule out them suddenly winning 6 in a row, later in the season. Who knows, with a couple of recruits here or there.
Yeah, and I think, obviously a lot of it ties back into the summer window, but from an Atlanta perspective, let me ask you this. I asked Taylor Twellman a couple of days ago. He had his interview from the golf course that he did. But so you've got, like you said, Garth Lagerwey, Carlos Bocanegra, they've gone out, they've made the sales around $50 million, all things included, because you add in the Ezekiel Barco sell-on fee. So there's a lot of money to play with. I asked Bocanegra right before the Open Cup match, kind of how does the strategy with finding a head coach, or being in the process of finding a head coach, how does that affect bringing in potential designated players? His answer was more or less, right now we're having to essentially convince potential players to come, knowing that there's a little bit of uncertainty, but you have so many other things. You have the club culture, the way they want to play, the bins, the fans, everything. What would you do in this situation? Just put yourself in Garth's shoes. You have the money, you have a interim head coach that you're trying to give time to, but you're still looking for a head coach. A lot of people say you get the head coach and then get the players. Others say there's enough time to save the season, get your players, and then find a coach that might fit everything all together. when right now is kind of the best time to get players and coaches because there's so many, there's so much available talent out there. How do you fit into that? How do you see maybe the best strategy forward for Atlanta?
Well, I think the best long-term strategy, I would always say, would be I would focus on getting the right man to be the manager, the head coach of the team. And if it meant that that person was not in role and in position until pre-season next year and starting afresh, and then using some of that money astutely and kicking off with a fresh squad next year, then I kind of see the logic in going that way. I think that's probably the more traditional way that you would think about doing it. But this is a different league. And we are also in a different era now where front offices build and construct rosters and coaches coach the players. So there is certainly an argument for saying, look, Harry Redknapp always used to say to me, the game is about players. The game is about players. So if you get good players, and then hire the right fit of a coach for the culture of the club, for the area, for the league, whatever, then that coach should be able to coach good players and help improve good players. So there is very much that argument, and I think that is a more kind of current argument, and I think it fits well in MLS. So, I don't think they are going to probably necessarily be thinking purely about the manager when they bring in the players. I think they'll go for good players. I think Garth Lagerwey will use his connections to bring in good players, and then a coach, whoever that might be, and whenever that might come, will be tasked to work with those players. I think it's an extremely attractive position. Here's a club with a tremendous fan base. One of the big forces of Major League Soccer. We're rolling up towards 2025. The eyes of the soccer world continually keep being drawn back to what's going on in America, and this Atlanta job is there. So I would have thought it's going to be a very attractive job, and I think any would-be manager at the moment who's keen on the job would probably not be overly concerned at recruitment going on before they know whether they're in the post or not. I'm sure they'll be astute enough to leave some money in the kitty to do some things that might fit what any new manager wants. But fundamentally, I think now we see clubs that play with a culture, play with a style, and they want to make the manager fit that a bit more. So it'd be very interesting to see what that timeline is, though. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah. You and about 45,000 other people for sure. It's definitely like a chicken and egg scenario. Which one which one comes first? Which one do you do first?
What would you like to see done first? Which would you prefer?
It's tough. It's really tough. I think the fan base right now, just kind of being in touch with the fan base as much as we are, I think right now they just need something to hold on to. So I think if you fill a DP spot or both, I think you want to swing for the fences, make it fit. Obviously, don't just go get the talent that doesn't fit everything else, but you really want to swing for the fences. Try to go for a big name. Because there's so many out there. Everybody in Atlanta right now wants Antoine Griezmann. So which, hey, whatever. But I think to answer your question from my perspective, maybe I'm a little traditional. I would like to see the manager come in, whether it's now or later. I don't necessarily need it to be right now, but I would like the manager to come first and then give him some time to settle in, see what the team that he has now is like. And I know he's not making the decisions, but give him just a say, just a seat at the table to say, well, this is what I see every day in training and games. These are the types of players that I want to see come in and in that designated player spot to fill it and just round out the whole team. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And you never know. Do you know what? In football, we never know which way round it might have happened anyway, because we don't know whether maybe there's a leading contender in mind who, we just don't know. So, but yeah, I absolutely buy into that view. But I think probably more likely, there will be a swing for the fences moment. I just hope, $20 million doesn't get spent on one guy who comes in and it doesn't really initially make much impact on the team. I mean, there's a lot of little parts to fix. But,
absolutely.
It's the timeline of how it's done, though, is really interesting. And, but I think, you wouldn't probably want anyone else in charge of that other than Garth Lagerwey, overseeing that when it comes to experience of MLS and knowing the right way to do it. So, you would put your faith in him. If someone can get it right, you would think it would be him.
Absolutely. He's got the track record.
Yeah.
Tony Husband, you've got a plane to catch down here. So you go hop on the plane, and I will see you at the bins, I'm sure, probably.
Absolutely, yeah. No, look forward to seeing you, Tyler. And also, I just think I've actually got a double header because I've got the Atlanta Columbus game this weekend as well. So it's going to be great to have a few days in Atlanta. And I'm just mercifully relieved that I get 2 games in a dome in July with
Right?
the weather the way it is at the moment. I'm delighted by that.
Yeah, I've been doing yard work all day, and it's miserable outside. So thank
Yes.
God for a roof and air conditioning.
Yeah, and that'll make for better games as well, I'm sure. So, 2 good games this week, 2 big games for Atlanta. Definitely want to get some points to just reignite the season a little bit.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
2 games against Atlanta. Oh boy.
Tyler, are you muted?
Tommy is a giant T.
camera. Yeah.
What's that?
You're a giant T. I don't see your
Oh.
face at all.
Sorry about that.
Like, Jesus Christ.
Now you definitely don't see his face. You still don't see it.
Whatever. He's got to see 2 games against Atlanta United. He doesn't know what he's in for.
This is unsettling.
It's just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Anyway,
was
welcome
that-
back, guys.
Was that the
I gotta
clown
come
noise?
up with vibes. I don't know. I went to go get some tortilla chips during the interview, and then I found the mask. So sorry.
I mean, look, it was unexpected. It was entirely unexpected.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what else is unexpected? Transfer
break-
rumors.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
Oh.
Sorry, we don't have a soundboard. Pull it up.
At
We
least
got
the
two.
segue-
We got 2 stories, right?
At least the segue was a little bit smoother than the intro. Yeah, we have 2 actually. Which one do we want to pull up first?
Let's do Sleesh.
yeah. I guess
Sleesh. So reportedly, according to the same journalist that broke the Moranchuk rumors, Gianluca Di Marcio, Udinese is inquiring about Bartosz Slish. Now, I think there were Slish rumors before, right? And that didn't really amount to much of anything.
Breaking news. Yeah,
Okay.
there was like something real quick.
Well,
It
wait.
was like one tweet that
Yeah.
just like made something like someone was like interested, but like
I don't think
It was
Atlanta
nothing.
United's going to let him go. I mean,
No.
you just brought him in this season. He's been pretty good for Atlanta United. I think he's part of this next phase of this club. So I don't think they're going to let him go. If they do, it would have to be for a substantial amount of money.
Find me one moment this entire season that Bartosz Slish has put a foot wrong for this team.
He doesn't
Please.
shoot when we're all yelling shoot.
Yes, but
That's pretty much
neither
it.
was You're 9, sometimes you're 10, either one of your wingers, and you're number 8. So he's
He
down
did
the
score a
pecking
banger
order.
though. He did score a banger against, was it Nashville? He scored a
Yeah,
banger.
Nashville.
That was
Yep.
nice. But no,
think-
I think he's been a very serviceable player. Definitely our best midfielder that's left at least after Almada. So yeah, I don't think they're going to let him go easily. What do you think, Tommy?
no way. Absolutely no way. Look, you moved on from Giakoumakis, and I know a lot of people have been talking about like how quickly we moved on from him. It was like everybody was surprised by that. But you made a decision. The guy was injured frequently. There was value for him. Probably weren't going to get value from him too much longer if he kept missing games. The situation happened. You moved on. Look, you're trying to create an identity here, and one of the identities is not lead the league in goals allowed. Right? That's the identity that we want. We don't want to be in the bottom 2 here. And it's despite what we've been dealing with, it's not as bad as it was last year. So no, he's a big part of that. Obviously, with Gregerson and Williams is there. So there's no way that they're letting. I mean, unless there's some crazy amount that's out there, which I don't think that there's going to be. But you hold on to him.
Now,
Sure.
let's be clear. These are just like the first reports. They're just inquiring. I mean, sometimes it doesn't go further from there, especially if, Atlanta United's asking prices higher than what they're expecting, which I think it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Justin saying, no way. Garth said he's been trying to sign a player like Slish his entire career. And that's true. Like Slish is that player that fits all the boxes. He's won in many, many years that he's been a professional in a row. He's probably wise, I think, beyond his years in terms of soccer IQ. He's got the athleticism to back it up. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you let go of Slish for nothing, but I also don't think it's like 100% that he doesn't go. And I'll only say that one of two things. One, I think everybody is essentially on the chopping block in some way, shape, or form. Now, money is a big factor in that. However, going back to when Slish was first signed, Italy, Serie A, was the league that was very, very, very interested in Bartosz Slish. So it seems like that's carried over. And I think if there was any time in Atlanta United's history where another team from another league could come in and say, hey, we really like this player. We've liked him for a while. Y'all got him from up under us before, but we're still interested. And they come and snag him out again. Like, I think that's very valid in this situation because Bartosz Slish, and Henry, I know you see it with me down in the locker room. The dude hates losing. He hates losing. Probably more than any Atlanta United player I've ever seen. And that includes Joseph Martinez. The guy just, I mean, I don't know that Justin saying Slish seems pretty unhappy here. I don't know that he's unhappy here. I think he's unhappy losing. I think he's a very much like a winner mentality. And if he's not winning, he's not happy. So yeah, and that ties back to my point. I think if you're gonna try to keep him, you've got to give him something to look forward to. The same thing, you've got to give the fans something to look forward to. And right now, it looks very bleak, at least in the short term, for Atlanta United.
Another step backwards if you make it. It's another step backwards. You can't take another step backwards.
It's also just not good for his career that the team is losing so much because, I mean, you are one of the young kind of players that Poland has been so hyped about, right? And if you come to MLS and there's this expectation that you're just gonna rock this league, and that's just not happening. And it's not because of him as a player; it's because of this team. It's just going through a rotten season. So, yeah, I could definitely understand him being frustrated. I mean, if the fans are frustrated, imagine him. So yeah, I mean, I don't think he's necessarily, like Tyler said, I don't think he's necessarily unhappy with the team or unhappy with Atlanta as much as he's unhappy about just the state of the club at the moment. 100%. Do we want to go on to piece of news number 2?
Yes. No, wait.
Breaking news.
Hang on.
Okay.
Part 2.
Play the soundtrack.
Here we go.
Breaking news, y'all.
Breaking news, y'all.
Horrible. Let's move on to the thing. So, according to Lucas Pilar, clubs are preparing proposals for attacking midfielder Franco Cristaldo of Brazil's Grêmio. Among them is Atlanta United. Now, this guy would be one that you pull the checkbook out for. He's estimated on transfer market to be about 10 million euros. So you would expect that the club would want more for them, especially since, according to the report, Grêmio doesn't necessarily want to negotiate for him. They see him as a key piece of their team. However, much like Giakoumakis, he's been looking for a new contract, a better contract, and those negotiations have apparently stalled. So he's willing kind of to move around if he gets a bit of a bag. So this is the first report that I'm seeing of this. I couldn't find anything else. So who knows how legit this is, how much stock we could put in that. Obviously, if you're going after this guy, he would be a DP. So you wouldn't be getting Moranchuk. It would be one or the other. Between the two, I kind of feel more hyped about Cristaldo. I just just watching his highlights, he has an insane passing ability, just very incisive with his passing. His crosses are amazing. He's a set piece specialist. So yeah, I think he'd be a great addition to the team for sure. I'd be excited to see him, but who knows? It's just the first rumor, so I wouldn't put too much stock into it at the moment.
But it's a rumor.
But it is a rumor. Yeah,
it's a rumor, and yeah, the highlights, we were kind of watching them during our break while my interview played with Tony Husband, which, by the way, we haven't talked about it. It was a great time talking with Tony. I think he kind of tied into the conversation that we were having before with the way the team is going right now and like the chicken and egg scenario and the whole 9 yards. But really appreciate Tony. He's going to be on the call tomorrow and on Saturday. So hopefully, like he said, he brings us some luck, please. But yeah, I think we'll probably get up an article about Cristaldo here pretty soon. You can check out his highlights over on scarvesandspikes.com. I agree, Henry. I think just looking at the two, I don't know what the analytics say because I'm not privy to that information. But the eye test, I mean, I think Cristaldo just fits the team as it's built right now. Now, I Miranchuk is a guy that I think maybe fits a more conservative type of team, one that's maybe a little bit more defensive oriented. This is my opinion based on very minimal information I have, which is mostly YouTube videos. But Cristaldo seems like a more, attacking oriented, very aggressive number 10 and somebody that can make something out of nothing, which is what we've kind of gotten used to with Thiago Almada over the past couple of seasons. So yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it at all.
He seems like a lot of the 10s that this club has had in the past. Just the profile of player of just being like a purely creative, kind of a dynamic player that can put in those passes, sometimes take a long shot. I saw some of those in the video. He has an amazing right foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Tommy?
You want to continue being aggressive, right? And like you don't really hear Garth say that as much as like Darren Eales just say, we want to play attractive soccer, right? We want to be scoring a lot of goals from there, but you still want that. And you brought on Sleesh, Gregerson, Williams, like we said before, and you're obviously going to be changing a little bit with what you're doing with Caleb Wiley leaving the left back. But you still want to be you've built the defensive side of your ball up here. Now you need to get back to scoring goals, right? You need to be creative. Can Mayumba get back to what he was used to? Whoever the Almada replacement is, can he be better than Almada? More consistent than Almada? Because Almada, had some periods of time, this year that were just meh. A more mature Almada. Maybe he's not going to be able to score, as crazy set piece goals as Almada, but he needs to be able to get the ball moving forward, right? I mean, Almada was playing back a lot this season, a lot. Can you get your wingers moving? Can you get your striker scoring? I think this. You're right, Henry. This definitely feels more like a move here. But again, they said they were talking to 15, 13 players or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean that there's a lot of options here. And again, I don't want to keep saying chicken and egg. But yeah, I mean, you're obviously you're looking for a type of coach that's going to be playing a certain type of soccer for you, and I mean, we heard that, and then you got Frank de Boer though as well, and then he obviously was like, oh yeah, he's going to continue to play this type of soccer, and then it obviously wasn't for multiple months. Look, whatever way they go, long as there's wins, I'm fine. We don't have to put a 5. If we win games 2-0, I'm fine with that.
Dude, I'll take 2-0 wins every day for the rest of the season and beyond. Right. That would make me so happy.
You need wins. You need, you just have to find the right guys. And there's just still looking at, I always just look at the MLS salary list and just look at it and go, oh, all this money's coming open here. Like, you're really going to be able to recreate the wheel here at the end of this year, as long as you don't do anything stupid, and that you maybe move on from a couple guys here. If you could really do that at the end of the year, you really, really can make yourself available to really change this team in the winter, and probably still be able to be good and leave some room to still make yourself better in the summer. Because I don't want to wait till summer. I don't want to have a whole crappy first half of the season and us talking at this exact time, July 16th next year, and going, oh, I can't wait till we bring on, two U22s and another DP, and we'll finally be good then. No, you need to start the season good. Maybe leave yourself some room to be accessible to moves in the summer. I'm fine with that, but there's no screwing around until the summer next year. You've got to be ready and out the door, whatever your season opener is next year. You have to be ready with the manager, and real quick, because we didn't even talk about it. Kind of brought it up, like the search firm thing, like the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that's what this organization, the Arthur Blank Group, has done. It's just shocking to me that everyone knew Gonzalo Pineda wasn't going to be here to the end of the year. Like, I'm sure you could hire a group while this was all going down, or start prepping for it. Like, I get that you want to give Rob an opportunity, but come on, like, there's DPs that still have to come in here. It's going to take time. Are we really waiting to talk to coaches, to managers, until we find out that Rob's not the right guy?
And they waited a whole month after Pineda, because Pineda was fired, I think, was it June 3rd or something like that? Early June. Yeah. And it was early July. It was like before that Open Cup game last week, where we kind of heard the update, and it was like, yeah, we still got to hire the search firm. It's like, so what's been going on this month? Right? Like,
why are you screwing around
exactly
with this? And the Falcons, I think one year, I don't remember which coach that it was. If it was before, I don't think it was this last one. I think it was before when you brought on Arthur Smith. Like, it took a little bit for them too to bring on the group. They were slow rolling it, and there were obviously coaches becoming available. But that's just how this organization does things. They want to hire a firm. They want to make sure that everything's unturned. But like, same with the NFL. When you do that, guys get eaten up quick. So, and some of these names that, people were attaching to Atlanta United obviously weren't being realistic, but still, like, while you're waiting for this entire month that you had, and now, obviously if you hire the group, then you got to talk with them more and figure out what you want, and then you got to do all that. Like, that's another month or two in there. Like, at this point, you're not going to have a new manager probably until the start of next season. He's just going to be the manager next year. You're finishing with Rob, very likely here. Unless you hire this group today and they do the interviews, and your first or second one here, which that's not usually what a firm does. They're going to give you multiple names, so you're probably going to do a ton of interviews. You are probably not going to get this done until early September, October, and at that point, you're just waiting until 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think as much as we might not want to admit it, that's where the team is at, right? Like, I mean, Garth said from the get-go, this is going to take a while. He did say that this coaching search will not be rushed, which to me implies, and now I think the evidence shows, they're going to give Rob the chance, for good or bad. And I do feel for Rob, because he's thrown into a rock and a hard place. He really is. Like, it's a rough situation. But if he can come out of what he has put into now and develop a successful season for Atlanta United, then you probably should hire him, because right now, I mean, he is in a crappy situation. But at the end of the day, like, it just seems like all signs are pointing to you need to go find a big name, proven coach that's going to come in and be able to handle, the variety of obstacles that they're going to have to handle with, different players, potential DP spots open or whatever. Like, there's lots of factors. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be just a very quick, simple move. And I do agree. Like, why did you not at least start the search a month ago? And to play devil's advocate, I think Garth, I'm sure, probably has some names in mind, but still has to go through the processes. I hope, but we'll never know that. We may never know that because, it is what it is. I just think that at the end of the day, Garth is going to have to go in and find the guy that's going to fit this system if they are insisting on bringing in guys like Cristaldo, if he is one that they do bring in, or Miranchuk, if he is one that they bring in, whoever the number 9 is. You've got to hit on whoever it is, right? So I'll throw this out there, my 2 cents about Cristaldo. He came in, I think, right after Gremio got relegated, and then they got promoted again. I want to say he was part of the team that promoted them back. I agree. Like Henry said earlier, I think out of all the guys that you've kind of like the rumors that have popped up, this is one that you really want to latch onto if you're an Atlanta fan. Like, you kind of hope this one works out because I think he fits the system better. He fits the team better. And then just to give a shout out real quick, because I know people are like, well, cool, we got attacking midfielder rumors like crazy. This is not to sate anybody's bloodlust for a number 9 for a striker. But if you missed it, I'll throw it in the chat real quick. The Twos did sign a pretty fire striker very recently. Rodrigo Neri. He was a part of the same youth system that Ronaldo was a part of back in the day. He has been around Spain. He's been through their systems. I threw the article up from the website over the chat, but he is here until the end of 2025. And I feel like he's one of those that if he can get here and make his name known, he would be a serviceable, even if it's just as a backup, serviceable backup striker going into 2025. He is a guy that has proven himself with the U.S. youth national teams. He is sought after by Spain and I think Venezuela are the other two. He's been around the block and he's caught the attention of a lot of clubs and countries. So I feel like it kind of went under the radar with some of the stuff going on this past week, but it's one to keep an eye on. If you're not a Twos fan, I know we try to give the Twos their credit, the Academy their credit. He's one that you want to try to keep an eye on because he could be, even if it's 2 years from now, could be somebody to keep an eye on for Atlanta United, the first team. So
for sure. All right. We've been going for a while here. We got to get to it. New York baseball team coming to town.
The Yankees?
Yeah, that's what we'll call them.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen here? What's your prediction? And if you got predictions, put it in the chat.
Look, yeah, definitely. Ariel.
Hey, Ariel, how's it going?
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, we're still going.
Yeah, I'll throw mine out there real quick, Henry. Then you dive
Are we
in.
filibustering this podcast so we can't end it?
This show's going for all 9 innings, potentially extra innings.
I love
I
it.
can't handle any more extra innings of Atlanta United. I can't do more than 90.
How about the national
I
anthem?
can't do more
though?
than 90.
What was that? Y'all saw that? The anthem? That was insane.
Did you see she made a statement?
She did?
Or she made a statement that she was drunk and she was putting herself in rehab. I'm not kidding. Like, that's a real thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she posted that. I would say that too if I sang that bad.
Yeah.
In fact, after this podcast, I might go put myself in it.
Maybe we're not there yet.
Come on, Bruno's got to go to bed at 9. We got to get this moving.
Okay.
He's claiming.
Oh, come.
It's Henry.
New York,
It's Henry's bed.
New York
That's true.
City. So I'm expecting
He could
this
literally
to be,
roll out of his chair into
they're
his
fifth
car
in
bed.
the East. I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to be pretty. Tyler, you talk.
2-1
What's your
Atlanta.
prediction?
2-1. For me, it's 2-1 Atlanta. I've got to say that because I said that this is the one game in this 3-match series, whatever we want to call it, that Atlanta would win. They're going to get 3 points between the Montreal game, New York game, and Columbus game. This is where they get the 3 points from. I don't know why. I don't have any reason behind it other than this is your best chance because you're at home against, out of the 3 teams, the weaker team.
I'm saying 2-0 NYCFC.
Jesus.
Just because I just don't trust this team's attack anymore, and until I see otherwise. I mean, you go without shots in your last game. Now, granted, I don't think they're going to repeat that, but I also don't think there's going to be I don't expect there to be a massive difference because you're not really adding anything. Pedro Amador can't come in until Saturday, and even he's a left back, right? Like he might give you some crosses, and Tiare and Rios might benefit from that, but other than that, I'm just not sure. And especially, I mean, you're missing Stian, you're missing Noah, so you have a center back pairing of probably it's going to be Williams and Abram. So yeah, I'm not expecting a whole lot.
1-0 New York. I mean, I just don't trust this team, and watching, and then we'll get to it on Thursday. But man, then watching Columbus and LAFC, I'm just like, oh no, why am I flying out to Atlanta to watch this game? I'm scared. I'm scared.
Too.
I mean, I said 0 points in this 3-game span, and it's not just Atlanta. Like any team that doesn't have, and then technically this game, no DPs, all 3 are out, are gone. You can't. Yeah, Ariel, I'm flying in for Columbus, so come hang out. But we'll figure something out.
We will all be together in some way, shape, or form. We don't quite know what it's going to be like, but prior to that Columbus game, we will all be hanging out, including.
I'll be here. I'll be in Atlanta from Saturday to Monday.
I'll throw this out there real quick. Tommy did an interview with New York City FC, same one that myself and Sydney have both done over the past couple of years. Throw it in the chat. Y'all go check it out. It is New York City does a really cool article, I guess, on their website called The Away End. And they kind of go to, journalists, podcasters, whatever of the opposing team when they're leaving to go play an away game, and they chat with them, do an article on it. It's going in the chat now, but this is Tommy's contribution to.
I'm mad at you.
End. Why me?
Yeah, I sent it to you for editing. First, my wife edited it, and then I sent it to you, and then you edited it.
I did.
And then I sent it over, and I didn't read your edit, and there was a little bit of there was an error in there.
In my edit?
Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, I'm not going to go and change everything about what you wrote. What was the edit?
Please, you said that just go click it and you'll see. It's like the first paragraph. Look, man, last night I was in glory. All I wanted to do, I told my wife, all I wanted to do yesterday was sit down, play NCAA football from 4 o'clock until 4 in the morning. And then I'm happy the New York FC reached out to me, and I'm like, the one day I just want to have a couple drinks, have a couple gummies, and enjoy my video games. And then I'm asked to write, and now I'm like having panic attacks writing. And I'm like, I just want to play video games, man. And here I am.
There was nothing wrong with what I sent you back. So,
well, I hope I copy and pasted the right thing.
Well, it's not my fault that they wanted to be nitpicky.
I don't know. There was something in there.
I don't know.
But yeah, yeah. Thanks for helping me, jerk.
Anytime. I'll do my best. Not my fault you were in a gummy when you wrote it, but whatever.
Two.
All
right. Yeah, 2. Yeah. Beat a couple kids online. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We, again, joined the Patreon. We got the Discord. It's a ton of fun. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about transfers, so we're talking a lot about that in there. We're all in there. We'll do another watch along here soon. We're working on some type of contest here that we're going to have, or a raffle, or whatever you want to call it. So Patreon members will get some double entries. We've got merch. Damn it. We're working on revamping our merch as well with a logo. So we're going to be getting those out here, hopefully during Leagues Cup. Also on Patreon, we're going to be doing the history of Atlanta United. So we're going to start with year 1. Maybe we can get Henry in there to help out with some of that as well. Talk about it year by year. Keep us sane and happy until the end of the season. Probably a feature we do all the way to the end of the year. And again, if you don't join us, I think we're going to record something on Thursday to talk about this New York game. Come hang out with us on Saturday. We'll keep it on our social media where we're going to be. But I'm in town. If you want to have a drink, want to do a shot, cool. But yeah, come hang out with us.
100%. And
Way to
Henry?
party.
Yes.
Yeah, and me.
Yes. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be on. Glad to be back. It's been a minute since I've been on the show,
Yeah.
actually.
Henry has been straight Columbia for the past month.
Yep. I've that's literally been my entire I've been following the team. I even went to some of the group stage games, which was a blast, by the way. And yeah, it was awesome. It's good to be back though. It's good to be back to reality.
Back to Atlanta United.
Yeah. It's funny because I was when I was out watching those group stage games, and I had a moment, so I pulled up, I don't remember what game it was, but it was one of Atlanta United's games, and I was like, it was after I'd watched one of the Columbia games, and I'm like, man, I'd forgotten how bad this team plays.
Probably Salt Lake. Probably Salt Lake.
Yeah.
That was a rough one.
Yeah. But we're back.
That game was great.
Oh gosh. I'm glad I didn't watch it. That's it.
Well, all we got to look forward to right now is this right now, besides
It can
hanging
only
out with
get
us
better,
on
right?
Saturday. Well, no, because you're playing Columbus on Saturday. So let's hope something happens. Something happens in this New York game that could get us through. Or Cucho gets a red card, and Ramirez and Rossi all get red cards on Wednesday. And then we're going to party on Saturday. We're going to party.
6 points incoming. Let's go.
Don't be 6-1. Just don't be 6-1.
No. That was where it all started for Columbus. Period.
Sure.
Yes, Bruno.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, you'd have to come on Saturday to find out. So we'll leave that up in the air. Mystery.
100%.
Check out the website. Buy a hat.
Patreon.
These are sick.
And a beer glass.
And a beer glass, which Tyler emptied over the course of this episode.
I did. You're absolutely right. Twice.
I'm going to go watch the All-Star, I guess the MLB All-Star game now, even though I don't care.
Who do they have singing the national anthem for this one?
Huh?
Who do they have singing the national anthem? Is it the same person?
I don't know.
Anyway. Bye, guys.
We love you.
Ooh, Otani hit a home run.
Hey.
Big surprise.
No, hey. See you guys.
We're back again.
Appreciate it, everybody.
We're so back.
Please let it be true. See y'all.
Bye.